Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a vlog form of a blog post which I did in April as part of my blogging from A to Z April, which runs every month. We do a letter like A, day 1 of April, and we finish up with Z on the last day of April, and we take Saturdays off this year because it's Dante's 700th death anniversary year. I did topics related to Dante and the Divine Comedy throughout the month of April, and believe it or not, I did find something to represent every letter, even though a few were a stretch. For example, X was xenia, xenia, the Greek concept of hospitality, and I'm going to be doing the post I did in Empyrean today. And I also like to mention I finally got the Sterling Martinez translation of Purgatorio for the 100 Days of Dante I'm taking part in, but unfortunately this was a used book, and the person who owned it before me underlined a lot of things and wrote stuff in the margin, so I would like to eventually get a brand new copy of this book without writing in it. I personally don't understand why some people mark in books. That's just not something I ever do. But anyway, I am enjoying translation, and it was also inspired to do this post about Empyrean because I recently got this beautiful blank book from Peter Popper Press, which I've gotten several other notebooks before. It's the medieval conception of the heavens, which Dante speaks about also and believed in. This is from the Catalan Atlas, which was published in 1375 by Abraham Cresques, Spain. It features Earth in the center, personified by an astronomer. Concentric circles represent the 4 elements, the 7 planets which were known at the time. They didn't know about Uranus and Neptune and Pluto back in those days. The zodiac and the moon phases with the 4 seasons in the corner. It's just a very interesting thing. Medieval astronomy and astrology and astronomy are really interesting subjects, and Dante was also very much enamored of them. So let's get on with the subject. Empyrean, the highest part of paradise, which Dante ascends to at the very end of the Divine Comedy, has been written and speculated about since antiquity. Its name derives from the ancient Greek word empyreos, burning, fiery. In medieval Catholic theology, it was believed to be the place where God's physical presence and angels dwell. Given the medieval conception of the world, Empyrean was part of the geocentric universe model, which was overwhelmingly accepted as factual throughout the world. Since the time of Aristotle, people had believed the Earth, not the Sun, was the center of the universe. And obviously we cannot judge our very distant ancestors by modern knowledge. Of course they believed this because they genuinely had no other counterexample or reason to believe it was false. We can't, it's called presentism, trying to judge people in the past by the attitudes and knowledge we have today. It's just really not fair, because someday people will look at us with the same disdain they look at everyone who dared to be born before 1980. It's just kind of ridiculous. In turn, Earth was surrounded by 8 concentric spheres, in other words, the heavens. The first sphere contained the moon, and the next 6 contained Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. The stars were in the last sphere. Obviously, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto hadn't been yet discovered in the Middle Ages, and I will regard Pluto as a planet till my final breath. In the 2nd century of the Common Era, Ptolemy proposed the 9th sphere, Prima Mobile, the outermost corner of the universe. Prima Mobile was conceived of as an engine providing movement to all the other spheres, powered by God. This astronomical model was believed until the Renaissance, when Copernicus proved the universe is heliocentric. Empyrean, then, was above all the other spheres, but not a 9th sphere. Since God resided there, its size wasn't limited, and it wasn't even made of true physical matter. Empyrean is a place beyond time and space, similar to the Akashic records. You can journey there in dreams, visions, meditation, and self-hypnosis, but it doesn't exist in this dimension. If you're interested in the Akashic records, is a theosophical concept. I also strongly believe in it myself. It's basically this master library of every thought and thing that's ever happened throughout the universe, and there are these giant books there recording everything that's happened to your soul throughout all the different lifetimes. If you're interested, the channel Joe T. Hypnotic Labs has a beautiful self-hypnosis meditation to access the Akashic records. I've done it many, many times. It's so really, really beautiful. But anyway, Empyrean was also believed to be motionless, though it set the 8 spheres below it in motion. Dante and Beatrice arrive in Empyrean in Canto 30 of Paradiso. This experience is so intense, Dante can no longer find words to describe Beatrice's beauty, and throughout the entire canticle of Paradiso, he's been frequently going on and on about how beautiful she is, and she just keeps getting more and more beautiful as they rise higher, and sometimes they'll even apologize. Oh, I'm sorry I described this thing as so the most beautiful I ever experienced because I haven't described my lady yet. He's wrapped in intense light, which temporarily blinds him, followed by his sight returning stronger than ever. A river of light flows between two banks full of flowers, and a swelling of sparks are exchanged between the flowers and river. Beatrice tells Dante to keep his eyes upon the river, which soon transmogrifies into a huge lake of light. The flowers reveal themselves as souls and petals, and the sparks are angels. And it's unfortunate a lot of people kind of start to tune out by the time they get to Paradiso, or don't even bother with it at all because they think, oh, only Inferno is the interesting, like, dramatic, cool book worth reading, and maybe they'll like read Purgatorio, but they won't like it as much because like the poetry gets more and more beautiful as you go along until the final end of Paradiso. It's the most beautiful. Yeah, and you don't need to be scared off because all this intense theology, and even if you're not of that religious persuasion, or even if you might be a Catholic yourself, but just kind of feel like it's really hard to understand and like relate to, you should just stick with it. Find some good extra textual sources to study the book, and just stick with it because it'll be a beautiful payoff in the end, and the beautiful poetry is worth it. And again, I do encourage people to at least look at the Italian side in a dual language version, or listen to someone reciting it or reading it in Italian, because there's quite no experience like hearing it in the original. The poetry is obviously way more beautiful than even in any translation. After Dante surveys Empyrean to his great delight, he turns to ask Beatrice a question, and finds her replaced by an old man. The stranger says Beatrice asked him to lead Dante to his final goal, and points to Beatrice on the highest tier of the heavenly rows they're in the middle of. Dante gives thanks to Beatrice for everything she's done for him, and prays that he'll one day return to her as pure as he is now. And this is just one of the most beautiful moments in the entire poem for me, this tender farewell prayer to her. I'm going to read from the Mandelbaum translation, which I finally recently added to my collection. Let me see. Yeah, he's like finds her gone. It's like, where is she? Like he's like so like panicked and terrified. Where is his beautiful muse? She's been with me through all this way. And like Saint Bernard says, oh, calm down, son. She's like right up there, and just turn to her and just calm down and like address her. No mortal eye, not even one that plunged into deep seas, would be so distant from that region where the highest thunder forms, as there. My sight was far from Beatrice, but distance was no hindrance, for her semblance reached me, undimmed by anything between. O Lady, you in whom my hope gains strength, you who, for my salvation, have allowed your footsteps to be left in hell, in all the things that I have seen, I recognize the grace and benefit that I, depending upon your power and goodness, have received. You drew me out from slavery to freedom, by all those paths, by all those means that were within your power. Do, in me, preserve your generosity, so that my soul, which you have healed, when it is set loose from my body, be a soul that you will welcome. So did I pray. And she, however far away she seemed, smiled, and she looked at me. Then she turned back to the eternal fountain. It's really beautiful. You expect on Beatrice's last lines and moments to be this wonderful, beautiful, deep line of dialogue or something like that, but in actual fact, the last thing she does in the poem is smile at him. It's just so beautiful. Less is more. Sometimes being romantic or erotic or whatever, it's not extremely explicit or going on and on and on about things. With purple prose, it's just the little gestures suggesting more than actually happens on the pages. It's just one of the most beautiful moments in the poem for me. The old man reveals himself as Saint Bernard and tells Dante to look at the Virgin Mary. Angel Gabriel hails her, and all the souls burst into song. Saint Bernard then shows Dante all the great souls in the rows and tells him to look at God and pray that Mary provides the necessary grace to finish this amazing otherworldly journey. As you remember back from Canto 2 of Inferno, Mary is the one who ultimately sets this journey in motion. She's the one who summons Beatrice, and they talk together with Saint Lucia, and they decide, let's go out and save this lost soul whose folly has brought him so close to his final hour. It's almost too late. And I mentioned in another vlog, many people who have lost their mothers, particularly at young ages like Dante did, feel a special devotion to Mary, and that's possibly, well, obviously we can't know what was going on in his mind and soul exactly, but it is reasonable to believe his devotion to Mary may have been created in large part because he did lose his mother when he was such a young child, and he just felt this great attachment to this loving, universal mother figure like Mary. Dante sees the physical world bound together as one through the power of love, followed by 3 rings, each with a different color, representing the Trinity. Dante's mortal sight, even in such a heightened spiritual state, can only perceive so much, but he does see divine light. And he's talking about how, the power of words and poetry is failing him, like his words are as weak as even weaker than a baby's tongue grasping at its mother's breast and nursing. So he's saying, like, even I can't do it. And this is from this guy who's been so, like, full of pride, like, admitting this is a sin he struggles with, although he does actually say in the Vita Nuova to, like, praise yourself excessively is totally morally reprehensible. That kind of contradicts some of the things he actually says in the poem, kind of like, not like explicitly, oh, I'm the greatest ever, but just, kind of like low-key bragging about himself and like expressing pride, but he does at least, admit that's a sin he struggles with and needs to get better at. And, he also says, his wings can only take him so far, even like a great poet like he was couldn't completely, fully, accurately describe the glory of, God and divine light in the highest of the heavens. With his inner eyes in a brilliant flash, Dante suddenly perceives the perfect union of all realities and the understanding of everything in this world and the next. In his final moments in Empyrean, he understands love as the mechanism behind God, the universe, life, and everything else in existence. To the high fourth, imagination now failed, but like to a wheel whose circling nothing jars, already on my desire and will prevailed, the love that moves the sun and the other stars. So I hope you like this vlog. It was fairly short by my standards. The post was also fairly short, but I just thought it was a really interesting subject, and it was a really good topic for the e-letter of my blogging from A to Z with Dantean subject. I would like to try another vlog on Wednesday, possibly either on my posts, gay men in the Divine Comedy or religious minorities in the Divine Comedy. I will be doing both of them, and at some point I'd also like to make vlog forms of my other blog posts about like the book and some other things I'm planning. I have like maybe 8-10 more Dantean posts I'm going to write for the coming year, and I'll also be making those into vlogs as well. So hopefully this post will have a better reach than my last post. I really didn't think my thoughts and feelings about John Lennon were that boring. It would have an average view time of 40 seconds, even though 30 people viewed it. So hopefully I'm getting better. I will eventually build a greater audience, and once I have 100 subscribers, I will start doing some more different content when I know people are actually, watching this significantly and interacting with me. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and see you guys very soon. Thanks. Bye.